Welcome to our first summer workshop, y'all. We are going to be talking about how to succeed in online classes. Because what, like I said, welcome to the summer semester. I'm sure a lot of y'all are in online classes right now, or even if you just prefer to take online classes over in person in the fall and spring semester, we just want to give y'all some tips and then also give y'all some insight on maybe some things you don't know about yourself as a student. So my name is Natalie. I'm an ambassador lead with HCAP and as well as Mallory. And we are going to be talking about how to succeed in online classes. So first, please sign in, y'all. Here's the QR code. So we'll give y'all a little bit to scan that. Okay. So everyone got it? And here's our agenda. We're going to start with a Mentimeter. And then some general strategies for online classes. And then we'll go into a lesson about learning and note styles. And then we will be talking about the notes. And then we are going to close with Mentimeter again. And then we'll have some time for questions if y'all have any.
So to start, we are going to be using Mentimeter. If you've never used it before, it's just like a little, I guess like question and answer thing. It's you can participate a lot. So go ahead and you can go to menti.com and use this code here. It's going to be at the top throughout the entire, I guess, Menti presentation. So it's okay if it takes you a second. So our first question for you guys is, have you ever taken a class online? Yes or no? And then we'll just give you guys a few minutes to answer that. And again, the code is up here if you guys need it. Seems like most of you have taken an online class before. I have too, so make it 8, 9. Oh my God, wow. I think that's everyone. Everyone's taken an online class, so that's good to know. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question, which is, how would you describe your experience or idea of online classes? So all of you have taken online classes before. What was it like? Just what was your experience? How was it? What did you notice? Just really anything about online classes, let us know. And we'll give you guys a few minutes since this one is like a free response. Self-motivated, very true. Chaotic and confusing. Okay, I can see that. I have definitely had a chaotic and confusing online class before. Good. Okay. That's good to know. Flexible, very true. Asynchronous, yeah. Mid. Okay. Poor communication. I agree. Sometimes professors are not very good at communicating. All right, strange. Okay. So it seems like we have some varied ideas of online classes, also some similar ones, self-paced, self-motivated, um, time-consuming. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our next slide, which is, are you currently taking, because it is online or summer semester right now. So are you taking any online classes currently, or are you planning on taking any in the future? So it seems like everyone, no, real. So it seems like most of y'all are currently taking online classes or are planning on it. We have a few no's, which valid. So our last question for you guys is, what is your learning style? And it's okay if you don't know, we do have an option for, I have no clue. But if you do know, are you a visual learner, auditory learner, kinesthetic, or a reading and writing learner? And I understand sometimes there's, you have multiple learning styles, but just pick the one that, feels the most like you if you do know. And again, if you don't, it's okay. We will get into that. So it looks like we have a good little mix. A lot of kinesthetic, a lot of kinesthetic. Okay, I think that might be everyone. I'm not going to do the math in my head to add those up, but I'm just going to say it's everyone. So let me go ahead and present this again. So now we're going to go over just some general strategies for taking online classes. So the first one being is actually taking notes. I know it can be really easy just to, skim over the PowerPoint slides, skim over the textbook, just, watch the lecture video in the background. But if you actually sit down and take notes to whatever it is, a video, textbook, slides, it will help you actually retain the information a lot better and also just help you learn it more. Also, I know for me, it helps me like stay focused on what I'm doing. It's a lot easier to not get distracted if you're actively doing something instead of just, passively reading. Another thing is staying organized. There are so many different ways to stay organized. You can use a planner, like a physical one, weekly schedule. There are so many different online calendars you have access to. I believe there's one in Canvas. I know there's one in Outlook, and there's always Google Calendar. So just doing whatever you can to help you stay organized and stay on top of things. Make sure you take your notes, make sure you do your homework, study, whatever you need to do. I know for me, I use a physical planner, and then I also have like little sticky notes on my laptop just to make sure I really have everything laid out. I can see what I need to get done. And this is another strategy. Planning out when you'll do your online work in advance can definitely help. So, setting out like an hour a day, a few hours a week in advance to say, I will sit down and I will do my online work, during this time can really be helpful because then you know that you will have time to get this work done. Another strategy is making sure you pick a good study environment. So, we'll kind of get into this with different learning styles, but different people, they learn in different ways. So making sure it's, not a distracting environment. You can have white noise, light a candle, whether you're in a study group or you're studying alone, different things will help other different people feel studious. So just do whatever works for you. And it's okay if that's different than what your friends like to do to be studious. And then the last thing is to not study in bed. So research shows that if you do your work in bed, it can actually make it harder to sleep at night because then your brain associates like your bed with doing work and being awake rather than being asleep. I know I am very guilty of doing work in my bed. But if you can kind of separate your work and your, sleep, relaxing, just a relaxing space, it can really help you, sleep better, which if you don't sleep well, then it's going to be a lot harder to study and learn. So go ahead and get ready to take some notes because Natalie is going to be going over different learning styles and different note-taking styles. So you can, pen and paper, use your phone, use your laptop, whatever is most comfortable for you, because we will be discussing afterwards. So just make sure you take some kind of notes.
Okay, so here we're going to talk about the four different learning styles. There's kinesthetic, visual, auditory, and reading and writing. I know a lot of y'all, since no one said you didn't know your learning style, y'all may be familiar with this, so this is just some background knowledge. So kinesthetic learners, they interact with their environment a lot. They prefer practical or over theoretical concepts. And these are learners that are very tactical and they learn best by doing things and gaining things through their own experience. And the visual learners, they benefit from looking at images, graphs, charts, data sheets, really any type of visual chart, they really benefit from that. And they tend to learn holistically and kind of just looking at the big picture rather than little sections. And then auditory learners, they process information through listening and or discussing, and they may prefer listening to a professor lecture or a podcast over reading a textbook or looking at the PowerPoint slides. And then reading and writing learners, they retain most of the information by writing and reviewing their notes or reading the lecture slides, textbook, articles, journals, really anything that the professor may provide for you. And they prefer writing, reviewing notes, and once again, reading the lecture slides. They really benefit from that like baseline, um, basic stereotypical things that the professor gives you, which is good because, they like the bare bones of it. And then we're going to talk about the different note styles that correlate with each learning style. So first we have the reading and writing learning style with the outline method. So this is kind of just bullet points. Maybe you're just listing off keywords. It helps organize the material chronologically. So when you're watching a lecture, kind of just go as the lecture goes. This makes it easier to translate into study questions. And it's good at breaking down complex ideas into simpler chunks. So you could like highlight, underline the key concepts or things that you may need to work on. And then next we have the visual learners with mapping and charting note styles. This is kind of like a brainstorming method. They relate information, facts, definitions, concepts by drawing it and kind of, branching it out. Yeah, they branch out their notes in a way that makes sense to them and is aesthetically pleasing since they are visual learners. And it is easy to edit and add along the way, and it helps when trying to identify the gaps in their knowledge. So if you're the type of student to maybe you kind of like chicken scratch when you're in class because it's hard for you to multitask and then go back after class and edit your notes and tweak it, this might be good for you. And especially if you find it helpful to kind of draw out your connections because I know sometimes we can relate things to maybe stuff that doesn't directly relate to the class, but you're like, oh, that reminds me of this. Like that'll help me remember that and then draw a little, that might be helpful for you. And then next we have the auditory learners and we have the Cornell note style. I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard about Cornell notes. It is very basic, very talked about, very popular. But this can be very helpful with auditory learners because it divides the page into three sections, the key concepts on the left, and then the main points on the right, and then a summary at the bottom. So the key concept section is good to refer to when you're creating study questions and you have, those things that you want to really focus on. And it is great if you find study groups helpful because you're able to listen to others' perspectives and ideas and engage your active listening skills. Since if you are doing this in a lecture, it might be kind of hard first because you have to like set it up. But if you're in a study group, it could be very helpful because you have that summary bit. And since you are an auditory learner, it is good to kind of relay the information to someone else, almost like teaching it to them and maybe they could do the same, reciprocate it, and they could focus on some things or explain things in a way that you didn't at first. And you could bounce off of each other and learn more that way. And this also helps with, like I said, mastering and teaching the material, and it gives the learner the confidence to be able to teach it because in a lecture, it can be hard when you're listening, from the beginning to the end. So this can be good when just if you hear something that is like, oh, okay, I'm gonna remember that and edit it and review it, everything. This can be good to fill out when you're listening to a lecture. And then next we have the kinesthetic learners. So these are, like I said, very tactical learners. So really any note style can be helpful because, you're engaging in that activity of taking notes. But here are just some things that could be helpful when studying or reviewing your notes. We have flashcards. So the action of flipping through the cards, as well as rewriting your notes and the concepts down can be very beneficial for these types of learners. And then we have the iPad. I know iPads are super popular. I want one so bad for school. And this can be really helpful when doing like practice problems. And it gives the learner a chance to engage in their learning and make an activity. So, like drawing things, taking it out. It's very flexible and easy to adapt to your note style. And then we have practice problems. So, oh, the repetition of practice problems helps activate muscle memory and promotes engagement and retention. So I personally find practice problems very helpful because I like that repetition, it really helps me remember. And I didn't think about this at first when I was researching this, but the muscle memory really makes sense because, when you're taking that test and you see something, it can really activate and engage your muscle memory and recall of that information. And then I have this little graphic, sorry, it's hard to see it. It's the study cycle. So you're attending the class, you are reviewing the notes, you are studying the notes, you are previewing the notes, and then you're checking your knowledge, and hopefully you are ready for the test, the paper, whatever you are trying to prepare for. Um, so yeah, guys, that was our little lesson. What kind of notes did you take? We want to know which of these note styles is most like the notes you just took, or if you already take what your notes with one of these methods. Um, so yeah, feel free to type in the chat. Sorry, we don't have the Mentimeter for this, or if you're comfortable unmuting. We love y'all's engagement. Um, yeah.
Mine are a mixture of outline and mapping.
Same. Yeah.
I didn't take notes on this, but I know for me in class, most of the time what I do is outline. Also, I hope you can't hear my brother vacuuming. Um, but I mostly take outline notes. It's just what works best for me.
Same. Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty popular one, especially when you're just in the lecture listening, trying to pay attention. And I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I kind of translate the outline notes into flashcards, um, and just rewriting it. That repetition really helps me.
We have a couple of notes in the chat. Brianna said that she likes the outline, and Brisa said that they're driving. Okay, Brisa, hopefully you're not the one driving, but that you're writing. Normally she rough drafts her notes and then refines them afterwards to study, which is a great idea, no matter what your style is.
Yeah, that's great, y'all. Thanks. Thanks for letting us know. Map and then rewrite after. Yes. I love. Awesome, guys. Ooh, color coding. Oh my gosh, I love. Have all my highlighters out in class. It's a little obnoxious. I like writing flashcards. Cool, guys. Yeah, so see, we're all different types of learners. And yeah, I just hope that was helpful to kind of make sense of the way you learn, what kind of student you are, and hopefully you can take some of that into the classes you're taking this summer.
So you might be wondering, how does knowing my learning style help me with online classes? So like a lot of you guys were saying, online classes can be confusing, challenging. They're very self-paced and very self-motivated. And, it's very different than, an in-person class where you go to class, you have this set time to, learn the material. But in an online class, you have to do all of that yourself. So by understanding how you learn best, you can adjust your note-taking and your study habits to best suit your needs and to make sure that it's easier for you to succeed in your classes. So for example, a reading and writing learner can, just read the textbook and take their notes to learn, whereas an auditory learner, that probably wouldn't work too well for them since, they need something to listen to. So instead, they would probably benefit from listening to the textbook. I know a lot of textbooks have, the read aloud feature, or listening to a podcast or a video about that same subject and then taking notes maybe in the Cornell note style instead of outline, which would work for a reading and writing learner. So we're going to go ahead and go back to the Mentimeter. We do have one last question for you guys. So hopefully you still have it pulled up, and if not, it's okay. You can just go back to the website and type this code back in. So which one of these strategies are you most likely to use? So it's another free response, so we'll give you guys a few minutes just to fill that out. All right, I see Cornell, mapping, Cornell notes. Okay. I'm glad y'all are liking the Cornell notes because I remember when I was in like middle school, we had to use Cornell notes and I did not like them. So I'm glad they're, I guess, making a comeback. Whiteboard, practice problems. Okay. Another person likes the whiteboard. I know whiteboards are really helpful, you don't have to, use up a bunch of paper and you can still write a lot of things out. So I know it's really helpful for a lot of people. All right, I'll give you guys like a few more seconds. Staying organized is a good one. Planning ahead. Okay, so you guys can obviously, keep typing, adding stuff to the Menti, but I am going to go back to the slides just for time's sake. So do you guys have any questions for us? It can be about really anything, online classes, learning styles, note-taking styles. Feel free to unmute or you can type in the chat. And if you feel uncomfortable, typing them out or asking out loud, we will be providing both of our emails at the end. So you can always email us any questions you have. So that is an option as well. Okay, so Brisa wants to know, what are some tips for studying when there are no lectures attached to the online class? So for example, studying the test out of a class. Natalie, do you want to answer this one or should I?
I can give my 2 cents, and yeah, I would say, I mean, hopefully the professor provides like a textbook or articles or anything you can go off of. Um, and yeah, I think what you mean studying the test out of a class, um, I usually after that first test or after the first quiz, you can kind of get a feel for how the professor words their test or how they format it. And hopefully they have it on the studying on Canvas, studying the two tests out of the class. Okay. Um, but hopefully they have it on the study on Canvas where you can go back and look and see what you got wrong. That really helps me um just really focus on the things that I didn't do so well on in the quiz. And yeah, really maybe try looking at like outside resources. Um, so I know the UTSA library website is a really good one to look at like scholarly articles at what relates to the material that y'all are covering, as well as yeah, that's kind of what I do. I try to look for outside the box type resources.
Yeah, so also with that, outside of like, I guess, typical resources, if you wanted to find like a study group of some kind that could help. Also, I know I think it's called Pear Deck Tutor now. It used to be called Tutor Me if you wanted to, talk one-on-one with someone who really knows the material to help tutor you. That's always an option. I know it's free for UTSA students who have like a certain amount of hours per week. Yeah, and you can always reach out to your professor if you have questions about how to best study for the class or if they have any additional resources for you. Just for time's sake, I am going to go ahead and move on. If you guys have more questions, feel free to type in the chat or send us an email. But if you guys could go ahead and complete this evaluation survey. just, scan the QR code, or you can type in this link. Your feedback is very important to us. We want to know what we did well and how we can do better in the future. So I'll give you guys just a second to scan that. So again, thank you guys for coming. Feel free to contact us. So the HCAP Health Community and Policy Student Success Center, we have all the information here, email, phone number, and also our Instagram. Our Instagram, we post a lot about our events and also just resources. And then me and Natalie's emails, feel free to reach out to us if you have questions about, again, learning styles, note-taking styles, online classes. Both of us have taken online classes, so we have experience with them. So yeah, just feel free to reach out to us. And also make sure to come to our other summer workshops. So our next one is going to be on June 25th, which I think is in like maybe 2 weeks, about mental health and well-being. And we will be posting all about our next workshops on our Instagram. So be sure to follow our Instagram. And you can use the same Zoom link you used to join this session. And you can also find the link in our Instagram bio.